Rob on the mic, spitting truth from the heights. Queens unite under stadium lights. Bright nights, 7 train rides. Dreams born in the real hum. Brooklyn to Queens, yeah, we all about that outcome. This our time, this our cheer. Mets talk loud, bring the hype, make it clear. From the boroughs to the field, this our year. Queens in the house, let the world hear. From Flushing Meadows, echoes bounce off the bat. Rob calls, take the mic, snaps like a thunderclap. Home runs over bridges, no gaps in the story. Mets rise, reclaiming the glory. 7 the city, blue and orange army swarm. Summer vibe electric, love in every form. From Biggie's blocks to Flushing's heartbeat. Our anthem loud, no retreat. This our time, this our cheer. Mets talk loud, bring the hype, make it clear. From the boroughs to the field, this our year. Queens in the house, let the world hear. The apple pops in the outfield, city of dreams. Rob's voice over static, Mets on every stream. White lines mapped out the future, vividly. From shade to city, the journey's never gimmicky.
What's up, Mets fans? Welcome back to another Mets Talk Live right here on the channel and on X. How is everybody doing on this Saturday, December 13th? As we do have the New York Mets making a sign-in today as they sign Jorge Polanco to a 2-year, $40 million a year deal. 2 years, $40 million deal, $20 million per. And guess what, guys? It's a solid move. It is a solid move. Am I excited about it? No. Am I going to jump for joy or buy a jersey? Of course not. But solid ball player, 26 home runs, just under 80 RBIs last year. He's a utility guy, a guy that can play second, short. There's some indication that the Mets might put him at first base. He has not played much at all at first base. He is a guy that seems like he's solid with the glove in the positions that he usually plays, second and shortstop, a little bit of right field. I wouldn't put him at first base, but it's hard to deny a bat that is pretty good. And he provides 25, 26 home runs, and he's a good player. You know, we talked about this a couple of shows ago with the fact that when it comes down to what the Mets need to do here, right, by trading Nimmo, letting Alonso walk, Diaz walk, they need to bring in solid ball players. And if you notice what they're doing is they're bringing in high character leadership guys. Marcus Semien is that. He's a champion. He's a really good player. Not as good of an offensive player as he was a few years ago, but still brings that mentality to the New York Mets. Same thing goes for Jorge Polanco. If you watch the Mariners throughout the playoffs, he was badass in the postseason. He was one of the most clutchest hitters in their lineup. And the Mets need guys like that. They need guys that are not afraid of the moment. They need guys to not be afraid of New York City. They need a guy like Polanco who can go into the middle of this order, right? Maybe bat fifth, right? Right now you got Lindor, you got Semien, you got Soto. You know, I saw a lineup earlier today where they put Polanco in the cleanup spot. I wouldn't go that far, but as of right now, it kind of makes sense considering the fact that the offseason is not over yet. We'll see what the Mets do when it comes to position players. And look, it's not an earth-shattering move. It came out of nowhere, right? Nobody really knew that they were talking to him, and it basically happened. So when it comes to what are you going to bring to the table, a good bat. Yeah, always, granted. Absolutely. His defense is not great. I'll be the first one to tell you that. But he's a utility guy. This is a guy that if the Mets have other plans for first base, because he can't play up the middle, you got Lindor and Semien. So if he's not going to be the everyday first baseman, which I still don't believe he is, you can put him at DH. The Mets have not had a guy that was a DH that has 26 home runs. The guy provides some power. We could do a lot worse than Jorge Polanco as a DH. Now, $20 million per year, I don't think he's just going to DH. But if that's the case, I'm okay. I'm okay. Well, Truman, I understand people saying they overpaid, but, it depends on the market, right? I don't really know what the market was for Jorge Polanco. Was he getting 1-year deals? Was he getting 3-year deals, but less AAV? I don't know. So I don't think it's an overpay because I think everybody's overpaid. I think everybody is overpaid. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think anybody's underpaid. I think everybody is overpaid. So I don't call this as an overpay, right? A lot of people believe Dylan Cease was an overpay for the Toronto Blue Jays. Sure. But I always have this motto: if the team wants him, you go get him. Don't let nothing get in the way of that. And that's what the Toronto Blue Jays did with Dylan Cease. That's what other teams do with other players. And that's the way I see it. That's why I talk about, if David Stearns wanted Jorge Polanco, he thinks he's going to help this team, then go get him. Yeah, maybe it costs you a few $1 million more overall, but you want the guy, you go get him. I'm never mad at a GM, or in this case, a president of baseball ops, if you're decisive in your moves. If I don't agree with them, that's fine. I'll have my disagreement and I'll say my opinions and why I disagree about it. But I'd rather have David Stearns be defiant and make a decision and be decisive on that decision and on that player you sign or you trade for. So if he thinks that Polanco is a guy that is versatile, he's got a good bat. We all know that he's a 260, 265 hitter, can hit 25 home runs. I think he could probably hit a little bit more. Safeco, sorry. T-Mobile Park is not a bandbox. It's a pretty good pitcher's ballpark. So you can see that he can hit home runs in a big ballpark, and Citi Field is one of those. So I'm not really going to look at overpaying and cry about it. I'm just not anymore. Like, everybody is overpaid. If you want the guy, go get him. I'm not saying to pay 4 more years more than everybody else and $100 million more than everybody else. That's crazy. But if you got to, throw in a few $1 million more, maybe even an extra year, I think you got to do it if you want the player. And it goes on all levels of players, from the top level to the bottom level of players. I have never had a problem with a GM doing something that they think is right for this team. Be decisive, right? The Seattle Mariners were very aggressive in trying to get Polanco back. So David Stearns didn't let that happen. Now you could say, well, he let the Dodgers get Edwin Diaz. He let Alonso go without even giving an offer. I agree. Yeah, but Truman, you don't overpay second-tier players, but second-tier players get paid. They get overpaid as well. Every tier of players get overpaid. I'm sorry. It's just a fact. That's exactly what it is. They're all overpaid. No, I don't think Polanco is better than Alonso. That is silly. I never said that out of my mouth. But Alonso is gone. Alonso is a memory. That's it. I don't care about Alonso anymore. He's in the AL East. Good for him. He got his money in his years that he wanted. He's not a Met no more. I can care less. If I never speak Alonso's name again until September when we face the Orioles, I'm fine with that. If everybody wants to live in their morals and their little emotional, bubble of Pete Alonso, go right ahead. Because I don't care. Like, we've lost a lot with that guy. We lost a lot with Edwin Diaz. We lost a lot with Brandon Nimmo and others. There is no reason why we shouldn't have changed the core of this team. All they did was lose. Nimmo, Alonso, Diaz, McNeil, all these guys been here. There's been a lot of losing and a lot of choke jobs than winning. At some point, you got to change it. And do I agree with everything David Stearns is doing? No. But I'm not mad at the fact that he's trying to change something that has been rotten and has been losing since those guys been the core of this team. And that's it. Like, I'm not gonna cry over spilled milk because Diaz is not here and Alonso's not here and Brandon Nimmo's not here. I'm not. David Stearns needs to do his job and get solid players in here and make this team a potential playoff team. And there should be no reason why he shouldn't be doing that. And you don't sign Jorge Polanco to a 2 years, $40 million deal to rebuild. You don't make those signings. You don't sign Devin Williams to a 3-year deal. So let's see what else he does. Again, I don't watch Jorge Polanco on a daily basis. He's in the Northwest when he was playing. I ain't staying up 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night to watch Jorge Polanco play defense and, get at bats. All I can say is I look at his defensive metrics. They're not great. They're not terrible. He's a middle infielder by trade. He played a little bit of right field for Seattle. I think he had like 1 at bat or 2 at bats or less than an inning at first base. That's it. Like, I'm not going to tell you the guy's great or good, but I watched him in the playoffs. The guy is clutch. The guy did his job. That's all you can really ask for. Overpay or not, David Stearns wanted him and he got him. So, you know what? I applaud him to do that. It's a little golf clap. It ain't going to be an exciting clap or something, me going crazy, but he got the guy he wanted. He wanted that guy. He got him. That's it. We look too much into the years and the money, and we get so obsessed with it when it really doesn't matter. The only thing you should ask is, did we get the player? Because I'm sick and tired of the Mets losing out on players they supposedly want and never get them, right? The report yesterday that John Heyman reported that the Mets want Tariq Skubal, right? That word want, there should be no discussion. You want him? Go get him. And we'll talk about that in the later topics. But again, Jorge Polanco, solid ball player, nothing special, right? You get Simeon that can hit 20 home runs. You got Polanco that can hit 25 home runs. You got Soto that can hit between 30 and 40. Lindor can hit 30 home runs, right? So you seen the top 4 come together a little bit in the lineup. A little bit. Again, there's still Bellinger out there. There's still Tucker out there. I know I'm not saying the Mets are going to get those guys, but these guys are out there. The Mets are talking about possible trades that we'll be talking about in a little bit as well. I just want David Stearns to be decisive in all his moves. I don't want him to half-ass this stuff. Do what you need to do. You want a guy, go get him in the free agent market or the trade market. I just don't care. And Polanco seemed like that was the guy that he wanted for whatever reason, for whatever part of the roster and how he thinks he's going to be used on this roster. He wanted him. He got him. Congratulations to him. Not excited, but he did his job. He got the guy he wanted. We know that the Mariners, who had the guy, was very aggressive with him. I don't know if they gave more money in less years or more years, less money. I don't know. But the Mets got him. And it's okay. There's still a lot of work to be done. A hell of a lot of work to be done. We still need a top-end rotation guy. And it seems like everybody seems to not want to deal with that much at all, right? Give me Peralta, give me Skubal. But that is yet to be determined as of yet. But right now, Polanco is a New York Met. I'm not sure where he's going to play. Again, I think that there's options for him. I think I would put him personally, I'd put him as a DH. I don't want him at first base. And he's not playing the middle infield. So I put him at DH. The Mets never have a good DH. He would be a solid DH. He hits 25 home runs, 80 RBIs. I'm fine with that. That is pretty good in the middle of the lineup. And that is where we are, Jorge Polanco. Still a lot of work in December 13, guys. There's still big guys out there in the trade market and the free agent market where the Mets can still do some damage here. And we'll see. Am I confident in David Stearns? No. You guys know my take on David Stearns. I don't trust him as far as I can throw him. David, I don't care about Vientos. All right? Here's what I'll tell you about Vientos. Vientos lost his job. That's it. He was deservingly the third base on opening day because of what he did in 2024. It's not my fault, nor it's David Stearns' fault that Mark Vientos shit the bed in 2025. Nobody's fault. Nobody's fault except Mark Vientos. He had the opportunity to be the guy at third base. He lost the job. He sucked. He never adjusted. He had a couple of decent moments here and there where we thought he broke out of it and he's coming to his own again. Never happened. Brett Beatty's the third baseman right now. Vientos is in oblivion right now. To be honest, I'd rather use Vientos and package him in a trade to get better players back. That's it. If he's part of that possible San Diego deal, great. Get rid of him. Why are we holding on tightly to these guys that have done nothing? He's had one great year when the league had no book on him. As soon as they have a book on him the following year, they pitched him the way they figured out how to pitch him, and he never adjusted to it. That is on Vientos, nobody else. He had every opportunity to keep his job. He let the infamous Brett Beatty take his job. The guy that got like 14 chances. He let that guy take his job. And you know what? Brett Beatty over Vientos. Why? Because Brett Beatty proved it when he got sent down multiple times. He basically got shitted on by the New York Mets on opening day in Houston. When Framber Valdez was on the mound on opening day, Mendoza decided to not play Brett Beatty, who deserved to play on opening day because he destroyed the competition in spring training. But Mendoza had to put Acuna at second base because lefty-righty. So Brett Beatty already got the short end of the stick. I think it really fucked up with his confidence. And then he played terribly, got sent down, came back, and took Vientos' job. You know what I want? I want a competitor. I want a guy that says, I'm not giving up. I'm going to do what I got to do. He worked on playing second base. He got better defensively. That was still a concern. And he finally figured it out with the bat. Am I saying Brett Beatty's going to be a great player or a really good player? No. But he deserves to be the third baseman, not Mark Vientos. Mark Vientos is not a good defensive third baseman. I don't want him at third base. Brett Beatty, at this point, is the better third baseman. And I can't trust a bad third baseman in Mark Vientos and hope that bat comes alive. There's no time for that. There's no time for that. When the Mets were choking away a lead and a division and a playoff spot, Vientos should have woke up, and he didn't. That's on him. That is on him. So too bad for Mark Vientos. If he's traded, too bad. You go somewhere else and maybe you'll succeed, maybe you won't. If you're still here, win a job. That's it. I'm sick and tired of giving guys jobs who don't deserve it. And I'm not saying Mark Vientos didn't deserve it after 2024, but why give Vientos an opportunity for what? Let there be competition. If you win the job, it's yours. But if you play like shit, you don't deserve to have it. You are not a superstar. You're not Juan Soto. You're not Francisco Lindor. At the time last year, you're not Pete Alonso. You're not Brandon Nimmo. Guys who established themselves, who keep their jobs when they're going through slumps. Vientos has proved nothing. 1 year doesn't cut it. There's many guys that have been one-hit wonders and never heard from again. That's it. All right, let's check the comments, guys. Make sure you hit on that like button, guy, and subscribe if you're new to the channel. All right, let's see. David, if you think Vientos, Beatty, Acuna, Sprout, and Senga is going to get you Scooble, you got another thing coming. All right. Like, add Jet Williams, add Carson Benj, because that's what it's going to take to get Scooble. And if you don't want to do that, then I question if you want to win. Let's see. David, I do agree with you there. I think Acuna and Mauricio could be a part of a deal for like a Mason Miller, Nick Pivetta. Again, there was a bunch of names, a couple of relievers, Ramon Laureano as well, that were names were mentioned. Obviously, it's not going to be all of them. I mean, that would be a massive trade with a lot of guys going to each team. But again, if the Mets, let's just put it this way. Since we're talking about the Mets and Padres right now, let's say the Mets want Mason Miller and want Nick Pivetta. Because Mason Miller got a tremendous amount of control left, he's going to cost you. Now, Acuna and Mauricio, I'm not going to cry about it. I don't think that's going to be enough because Nick Pivetta was one of the better pitchers in baseball last year. He was that good. Along with Mason Miller, who got control and is a phenom and got a great arm. I don't think that's going to be enough. So what you have to look at here is if that's going to cost you, which is kind of funny because you could have just paid Diaz 3 years and $75 million instead of trading for Mason Miller, and you could still use all those big old assets and prospects for Scooble. But I don't know what it's going to take. Like, I don't know. Look, the Padres aren't selling off players, right? They're still looking in 2026 to win. So they're not going to just ask for prospects. They might ask for Mauricio Acuna and maybe a David Peterson or a Kodai Senga. They might be looking for a major league ready pitcher or a major league pitcher that's on the roster or a position player along with one or two prospects. So that's what also you have to look at too. The Padres are probably not going to just want prospects. They're probably going to want, because what was it, about a week ago, there was a report that came out that the Mets are shopping David Peterson. We know the Mets are looking around of who might want to take Kodai Senga. The Padres might be a perfect fit. You might have to get rid of Acuna Mauricio or Acuna Beatty, or I'm sorry, Acuna Vientos and Kodai Senga. And then you slide Pivetta, who is more reliable, who is a better pitcher because he's reliable. And he's a guy that can pitch every fifth day. And that's a guy I want in my rotation. And Pivetta is definitely a number 3, a very solid number 3. And on his best day, he's a number 2. Now, am I going to be the one to say, I'm going to go to war with Nick Pivetta and Nolan McLean as my 1-2? I'm not going to get – I mean, it's good, but I'm not going to say, oh, boy, I can't wait to see those two guys pitch. No, I still think you should get Scooble, to be quite honest with you. Like, don't stop there. Like, go get Scooble. And if you can save a bunch of prospects in this deal with the Padres and maybe use major league guys on your major league roster to make that trade, I think it's a win for the Mets because, again, you get Mason Miller, who will be a closer. Devin Williams will be a setup man. You got Nick Pivetta to slide in that number 2 at the moment. And then use other assets in prospects to get Tyree Scooble. Everybody, I know there was a lot of people talking about, why would you want to trade everybody for a rental? Again, get the mind out of him being a rental. It does not matter. The Mets are going to make that trade, number 1, if they don't believe they can extend Tariq Scooble. Nobody's like, if I guarantee you, if Tariq Scooble came out today that he would extend with the team that trades for him, there'd be 100 teams for it. There'd be almost every team would be ready for him that has the money. So this is what we got to do here. I think this is if David Stearns is willing to give up these prospects, and again, here's the other thing before we get into this Padres trade a little bit more. People are so concerned. Oh my God, you built up this farm system. Why are you going to get rid of them? Because that's what contenders do. You influx, you fuse a little bit of the youth that to put on a roster, and you also get proven talent in here, and that's how you do it. That's what the Mets need to do, right? You got Nolan McLean, starter, youth. You got Alvarez, who's still very young, youth. You got Brett Beatty. I know he's a few years into this, but he is young. And then you got proven guys in Simeon, Polanco, Lindor, Soto, possibly Carson Bench. All these infielders that we're talking about, right? Ryan Clifford is kind of blocked. If Carson Bench is still here, Ryan Clifford is blocked. If happen if you get a first baseman or not, but Clifford's not ready yet. Jet Williams, where's Jet Williams playing, by the way? Jet Williams needs to be in any deal, especially a Scooble deal. We got all these infielders, and we just signed Jorge Polanco, who is a utility infielder. We still got McNeil. We got Mauricio. We got Beatty. We got Vientos. We got Acuna. Like, how many more infielders do we need? We got Ryan Clifford. We got Jet Williams. There is too many infielders. I don't care. You can't even play that many in a softball game on a Sunday. We have too many infielders, especially middle infielders. You can't have them all on your roster, and they can't sit there wasting away in the minor leagues. Some of these guys are already ready, or at least projected to be ready, or very soon be major league ready. You got to start using them as assets in trades. You can't hoard them. Hoarding them does not help you. Have we not learned our lesson from last year? We watched it for 162 goddamn games. 162 games. We saw Acuna, Beatty, Mauricio, Vientos. Constantly. Two of them were always on the bench for the two others to play. How is that developing? How is that First off, how is that helping your roster? And how is that developing the players that you call top prospects? It doesn't. It hurts their value. They don't get playing time. They don't develop. And who's that help? That doesn't help anybody. It doesn't help your organization. It doesn't help your major league roster. And it doesn't help your value if you want to trade for them. Because if you don't value them, why would another team do? Because maybe they think, why aren't they playing them? Is there something we don't know that they do? You're hurting their value. It's stupid. I talked about roster construction for most of the season last year. It was so bad how it was put together, especially the position players. You can't have top prospects sitting on the bench for 2 weeks and only be pinch runners and defensive replacements, and a couple of times pinch hitting. It's stupid. It does not make sense. We have to use some of them as assets. It is David Stearns' job to decide which ones he wants to keep and which ones he wants to trade as assets to get talent in here. It's not that difficult to figure out, to understand. I'm not saying David Stearns is going to choose the right guys to stick around, but he needs to make a decision and choose who you keeping and who you trading. If he keeps on being indecisive, Scooble is going to end up on another team. If the Padres are serious about trading some of these guys, and the Mets are not willing to do it because of the indecisiveness of David Stearns, they're going to go elsewhere. We can't keep on losing proven talent to other teams. Because don't be shocked that a National League team go and sneaks up on us and gets Scooble, and then, oh, whoa, don't worry, we can sign him at the end of the year. He signs an extension. Now what do? You see the problem? Get the guy in your organization. You have an opportunity to extend him the whole year. It's a risk willing to take. You know why? Because in 2026, he's going to pitch between 30 and 33 games for you and gives you a better chance to win. And you got Nolan McLean as your number 2. And let's say you do trade for Mason Miller and Nick Pivetta. Now you got a really damn good 1, 2, 3, and you got a damn good back of the bullpen. That's a good start. What was the Mets' problem last year? Completely, 100%, it was pitching. From the starters to the bullpen. The starters were an embarrassment. They averaged 4.1 inning a game this year. That is not a recipe for success. And what did that do? It destroyed your bullpen in the first half, and it destroyed your bullpen in the second half. The pitching was the main reason why this team missed the playoffs. Get that pitch and figure it out. Do what you need to do. Because if you don't do it, you're wasting another year. You're letting Lindor just waste them prime years. You waste another prime year of Juan Soto. You got Semien at mid-30s. You got Jorge Polanco in his mid-30s. What are you doing then? It doesn't make sense. Yeah, Brad, I don't see it. I don't think so, though. I don't think so. Unless Brad, if they do get Mason Miller and Pivetta, let's just say that, right? Okay. Then if you're not going to get Skubal, then you should sign Framber Valdez. Or, I don't want Michael King in that sense then, because I don't think that makes a lot of sense. Then go sign Ranger Suarez, excuse me. You bring in Nick Pivetta, bring in Ranger Suarez, and you got I would call it a solid 1, 2, 3. It's not going to be Skubal, McLean, Pivetta, which will be probably like really damn good, better than, really good. It would be great. I think that's a solid 3. And then you can mess around with who you have left. Maybe Brandon Sproat looks good in spring training. He gets a spot. If you don't trade David Peterson, he'll get like the 3rd or 4th. You got Clay Holmes. The 4th or 5th. Like, you got options here. So I really think that the Mets need to make decisions. Like, I want a big trade, not only to bring in talent, but I want the satisfaction of knowing that David Stearns is willing to trade prospects. Because we still haven't seen it in 2 years. And everybody's going to be like, oh, well, he traded 12 prospects last year. Yeah, that's a joke. All right? That's a joke. It was a lot of the lower level prospects besides Drew Gilbert who ran out of favor with the Mets because Jet Williams and Ryan Clifford zoomed past them in the rankings and went out of favor in the Mets organization. So they gave up 12 minor leaguers for 3 rentals in the bullpen. I want to see David Stearns trade top prospects to get this team better. Proven talent. If that's Mason Miller and Nick Pivetta, great. It's a damn good start. But I want to see him do it. I can't have any confidence in him or trust him until he makes a move like that. Because if he doesn't, when are you going to do it? Right now is the best time to do it. You got so many prospects, too many prospects in your infield, too many guys on your roster that play infield. You got to get rid of some of them. I want to see him do it. Hey, Slick Hernalena, what's up, buddy? How you doing? My old high school baseball teammate. Listen, man, I tell you. Love you, man. I miss you. That's my guy right there. Listen, this is what we're talking about here. when it comes to trusting David Stearns or not, everybody has different levels of trust. Like I think a lot more Mets fans have leaned of what the hell David Stearns is doing, right? I don't think they trust him just as much as I don't trust him. I don't. But it would give me a little bit of confidence when he makes him, or if he makes a move that requires prospects to bring in proven talent. That will tell me a lot. That would tell me he's willing to do it when he feels it's necessary. Because all we hear when they always ask him, hey, are you willing to trade top prospects for a proven commodity on another team? He always says yes, but he's never done it. So why do I assume that he's just going to do it? Until he does it, I don't trust him. And I don't have the confidence that he will. When he does, he'll shut me up for a few days. But we all know Skubal trade should be the icing on the cake. We need more to put the cherry on top. That's what we have to do. So there's more to it, right? Mason Miller and Nick Pivetta isn't enough. We need more. So go do it. The frustrating part is that he has the money and he has the farm system to do whatever he wants. He's done the bare minimum. And that's being nice. He's doing the bare minimum. Signing Devin Williams, trading to bring in Simeon, and today signing Jorge Polanco is bare minimum. It's not going to get anybody excited. And it's not good enough right now. But bring in Mason Miller and Nick Pivetta, all right. We're showing some signs here. Isn't enough, but we're showing signs. If you trade for Skubal, now you got the best pitcher in baseball on your team paired with Nolan McLean. That is a very good sight to see. That is really doing something. And now, what do you got to do? You probably have to get a bat. Another one. Maybe another bullpen arm or two. And now we start to look like an actual team. Are we a good team? We'll break down the rosters when it gets closer to spring training and have a better idea what the roster looks like. It's hard to break down a roster when there's so many guys out there in the trade market and the free agent market to see what is going on. So the other thing that has been reported, and this has been over the last couple of hours, is that the Mets are listening to offers for Jonah Tong. Jonah Tong has been sought after by a lot of teams. Now, I still believe that Tong would probably be in a Skubal deal. I think Tong could be in a Padres deal that might involve Pivetta, Miller, and one of their very good relievers. But I think use Jonah Tong in the best deal possible. I don't care which one it is, but it better be the best one. I wouldn't give up Jonah Tong. You know, if that was the only option out there to make a trade for, and that's the best option, then do it. But I want the best option. I don't want to use Tong, who seems to be what everybody seems to be asking for. Make people fight for him. Let the teams fight for him. Why not? Right? I'm not saying Jonah Tong is going to be a really good pitcher or a bad pitcher. I don't know. He needs to develop another pitch, or at least develop one of his third pitches that isn't really developed yet. If he does that, he could be good, right? I like the break on his pitches. I think he has. You can tell he knows how to pitch. I don't think he's mentally there yet, and he's very mentally fragile, as we seen last year when he came up. Not his fault. I'm not blaming him. I blame David Stearns for putting him in the position that he wasn't ready in yet. Not his fault. But if you can get something really damn good for him, you do it. I'm not waiting for him. I'm sick and tired of waiting, right? Again, check your calendars, guys, right? Just flip the calendar pages. It's 40 years this year, the last time the Mets won a World Series, all right? I wasn't born yet. Some of you might have not been born yet. Some of you might have been in Pampers, diapers. Some of you might have been very young. Some of you might have been teenagers, like my father, or in his 20s. It's a long time ago. My dad's retired. I was born the year after they won. Like, it's a long time ago. I've seen 2 World Series appearances, 2000, 2015. I haven't seen a lot of playoff appearances. Very little. Like, I'm sick and tired of losing. Like, do what you got to do to give the best opportunity for your team to win. That's what I want. And if Jonah Tong happens to be traded because of that, to get better, then do it. And sending pizza. Yes, I'm 38. There you go, Maya. You see? Right? You were 20. My dad was around 20, 22 years old when they won. 40 years ago. Yes, Sal. I guess I'm not glad. You know what I'm saying? I'm not glad. I'm not glad. Right? I wish I was rooting for, honestly, you know what? It's easier to be a Yankee fan, right? We all know that. At least when I grew up in the 90s, it was very easy to choose the Yankees. I didn't. I really started getting into really understanding and watching baseball and the players and all that. The mid 90s, right before the steroid era. Right? My main teams that I fell in love with was the late 90s Mets. Like, those were my teams. I love those teams. And obviously we didn't win. So, yeah, Kev, but you know what, though? When you're a kid, a lot of kids choose teams that win, right? Especially if they're in your hometown. Like, that's just is what it is, And look, I don't judge anybody for being whatever fan they want to be. My dad was a Met fan. My mother was a Met fan. I became a Met fan. Sometimes it chooses you, right? That's what I felt, right? It is what it is, right? I'm a Cowboys fan. I'm a Mets fan. I'm a Knicks fan, and I'm a Rangers fan, right? Not a lot of championships in my years. All right, I was very young when the Mets. I was very young when the Cowboys in the 90s were dominated in the 90s. When the Rangers won in 94, I was a young man. I was a young kid, right? I barely knew the game. I was like, what, 8, 7? Like, like that was the only time my teams that I love won. The Cowboys are an embarrassment. The Rangers can't get out of their own way. The Knicks look like they have something, but who knows? And the Mets are the Mets. Right? That's my choice of teams. I damn sure ain't no front runner. I mean, I guess you could say the Cowboys were a front runner when I was in the 90s, but it wasn't because they were winning. It was because on Sundays, I used to go over to my grandfather's house, and he used to have the Cowboys on every Sunday. He was a big Cowboys fan. And I watched the Cowboys with him, and I became a Cowboy fan. My dad's a Jet fan. My mother was a Bears fan. Her favorite player was Refrigerator Perry. Like, I grew up a Cowboys fan. The Irvin, Sanders, Aikman, Emmett, like, those are my days. So, listen, Jeremy, you're 19 right now? Wow. Well, you've been through it. Listen, look, I always think that if you're young nowadays and you went through a lot of losing seasons. I mean, let me see. I'm sorry. Jeremy, 19 years old, just think, he was 10 years ago, he was 9 years old when the Mets made the World Series. So he's so young, and he sees the Mets doing, having some success, and then he went through a lot of low years, right? Peter, you had only DeGrom. I mean, shit. I had Generation K. How did that turn out? That is what I remember, or a little bit of it. But yeah, like the late '90s was the teams that I really fell in love with. The best infield in baseball. That's what I fell in love with. Again, I always ask people, well, who's your favorite Met? Right? It's very rare that a true Mets fan will choose a star player. Right? It's rare. Right? Maybe the little kids now would say Pete Alonso at the time or something like that. Me, my favorite player was Ray Ordonez. Couldn't hit a lick, but was one of the best shortstops in baseball. So, yeah, Paul Wilson, right? Isringhausen, I mean, geez. It's like, it's those days, man. Hernan, I love you, buddy. I appreciate the super chat, man. I appreciate that. Love you, man. You didn't have to, but I appreciate it, man. Appreciate that. Yeah, Mega, he did get big hits, though. Like, again, Mega, I looked at those numbers, and I'm like, oh, shit. But he did have some big moments. It wasn't a lot of moments, but he had some big hits for them in the postseason. Keith Hernandez, LaDuca. Those were the, 2000 days, the mid 2000s. Oh, good days, good days. The Wright and Reyes era. David, I hope we get scuba, man. I'm just checking the comments really quick. And we kind of went through the topics, guys, so it's only going to be less than an hour, this stream tonight. I did a video earlier today about the Mets and Padres. I didn't discuss the trade proposal. I didn't, I was giving names like I was doing now, for the Mets prospects, MLB roster and all that fun stuff as well. But I give all the names that we've heard the Padres were talking about. And it's a couple of relievers. It's Laureano, it's, Pivetta, and Miller. And I go into detail a little bit more. I talk about who I think the Mets would put in a deal. I didn't really put a background on a proposal or anything like that, because it's still weird that we've heard Padre names, but we haven't heard Mets names in a deal. So we know it's not Lindor, and we know Tatis it's nothing to do with those guys. So if anybody thinks is going to talk about that, it's not happening. At least right now, it's not happening. It's about Mets prospects, possible some guys on the Major League roster, and the guys that I mentioned in the video, which is like 6 guys. A couple of bullpen, Laureano, Pivetta, and Miller. So I'm just going to run through the comments for the next couple of minutes, and then we'll call it a night. And, of course, if any breaking news happens, it's only 6 o'clock at night. I'll pop on if there's any breaking news, if a trade goes down, signing, whatever. But other than that, I'll see you guys tomorrow. There will be a Mets hot stove tomorrow. It might be, I get to you guys remember Zach from Sunny Days in Flushing. He might come on. I believe Chris hasn't got back to me yet, but if whatever, I'm going to have a hot stove regardless if those guys can't make it. And I'll bring it back Hector on the show. Maybe Hayden, who got in touch with me and says he wants to get back on a stream and all that fun stuff as well. We'll see who else I can get to join a hot stove, and we'll talk about mostly this, unless something else breaks in the next 24 hours. So there's no time yet for the Mets hot stove yet, but it will be tomorrow sometime between probably 5 and 8, most likely. And we'll go from there. We'll talk whatever we need to talk about our Mets. And then, we'll see how it goes, right? Yes, we haven't seen Zach in a while. I think Zach was very pissed off at the end of the season. And again, I'm not telling his story. Like, it's not my story to tell. If he wants to say why he didn't come, you haven't seen him in a while, that's up to him. I'm not going to say it. Thank you, Hernan. I appreciate it, man. Will I watch Don Cheadle's last match? No. I'm not going to lie. Listen, I haven't watched wrestling, like, religiously since the Attitude Era, right? When that was my niche right there. That was my time of wrestling. I remember, before that, when the early 90s, and then when the Attitude Era came, that was really when I really went into, with The Rock, Mankind, Stone Cold, DX, on and on we go. That was my time. I kind of fell out of it once the Attitude Era kind of like dwindled away. I didn't care anymore, to be honest with you. I was yeah, you can't see me again. I know John Cena. I he started to come up when I started to kind of fade away from wrestling. But yeah, and it's tonight, I believe, right? That's what everybody's talking about. His last match. Yeah, I don't care. My dad loves it. He'll watch it. So I don't. But all right, let's just check the comments a little bit more, and then we'll call it a night, guys. So yeah, if you're watching John Cena's last match, congratulate Macho Man. Yep, Hulk Hogan, right? Jake the Snake Roberts, right? The Bushwhackers, all those good guys. That was my time. Yeah, and I think that wrestling's too. I know it was always scripted, but I think these guys are terrible actors. I think they're very bad. I don't think the way the Attitude Era was, where the emotion was there, and it was good portraying of realness. It just doesn't do anything for me. But each their own. If you love it, you love it. I'm not going to stop you. Who cares? You love it, you love it. It's something to watch, right? Especially in the winter when the Mets aren't playing. So, but with that said, guys, again, Hot Stove tomorrow between the time 5 and 8. Just look out for the stream when it gets posted. Make sure you hit that notification button, hit that bell, guys. A lot of people keep on saying, "Oh, I don't see that you're going live until you actually go live, and I might miss it or I can't watch it." Guys, hit that bell. That's on the bottom of the stream, right next to the like button, right next to all the share and all that stuff. Hit that notification button, that bell, and click all notifications. Whenever I post a short, a video, a recording, a live stream, anything. If I do post on a community page, you'll have all the notifications you need. And there's a kid, Liam, that emailed me, 15 years old, just caught onto my channel, and he's a big Met fan. So shout out to Liam. He emailed me. I'm not gonna tell you what he said, but Liam, if you're watching and you can't in the chat, I emailed you back. We'll talk some more and keep on coming back to the channel, buddy. So, guys, thank you for tuning in to Mets Talk Live right here on the channel and on X. Again, Hot Stove tomorrow between the hours of 5 and 8. Hopefully, I get Zach on. Chris, co-host, will come back on. If not, I'll have a Hot Stove solo or with somebody else. Have a good night, guys. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday. And I'll see you tomorrow on a Football Sunday, guys. Have a great night. Let's go, Mets.
Rob on the mic, spitting truth from the heights. Queens unite under stadium lights. Bright nights, 7 train rides. Dreams born in the real hum. Brooklyn to Queens, yeah, we all about that outcome. This our time, this our cheer. Mets Talk Live, bring the hype, make it clear. From the boroughs to the field, this our year. Queens in the house, let the world hear. From Flushing Meadows, echoes bounce off the bat. Rob calls, take the mic, snaps like a thunderclap. Home runs over bridges, no gaps in the story. Mets rise, reclaiming the glory. 7 the city, blue and orange army swarm. Summer vibe electric.